Hey losers, welcome back to another episode here at Zero Losers Studio. In celebration of FF7 Remake releasing tomorrow, I thought it'd be a brilliant idea to talk about Cid. I mean, come on, he's like in every Final Fantasy game. Cid is an iconic character. He's up there with the Chocobos and the Moogles, simply because he's a recurring character. There's a Final Fantasy game, there's a Cid. He's always present, and he usually plays a factor within the plot, whether him being an antagonist, an NPC, or he just joins your party and does quests with you, does the journeys with you, helps you defeat the enemy. But mostly, the main purpose of Cid throughout the Final Fantasy games is that he is a skilled mechanic and engineer and a pilot, and he usually creates aircrafts for your character and your party so you guys can travel easily from one place to another depending on which Final Fantasy game you play. I'll try to make this video as spoiler friendly as possible, but like I mentioned earlier, some of the Cids are important to plots, so I'll let you guys know if there's going to be a spoiler coming up depending on which Cid I talk about, so keep an eye out on that. I'm going to list the Cids from Final Fantasy 1 to 15. I'm going to exclude the spin-offs just because that would be so much. Like, this video would be like an hour if I include the spin-offs. And if you're a Final Fantasy fan and you notice I might have cut some content out, it's just because there is a lot of information. So I'm just trying to make it sweet and to the point about these Cids. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start with the first one. Final Fantasy 1, Cid of the Lufane. So the first Final Fantasy game came out on the NES in 1987. He isn't really shown in the game. You don't see him. He is briefly mentioned once by a character as the Ancient Lufian. The Lufians are a race of people in Final Fantasy that are descendants from the Sky People. He is considered an ancient, and he created an aircraft during his time, which later the characters use in the main game. So this is like the first Final Fantasy game that basically became the catalyst for all the Cids. Final Fantasy 2, Cid. This Cid is the first Cid that we are introduced to. We do see a full image of Cid. In this game, Cid is a knight, and he leaves knighthood to follow his dreams of being a taxi driver, to collect his coin. Literally, he wants to collect money, his own money, which is fine. I mean, some things aren't for you, you know, one day you wake up and you're just like, being a knight isn't for me. I want to be a fucking taxi driver. You know what? I'm all for it. So he ends up using his taxi services later in the game to help you and your party travel. Spoiler alert, unfortunately, he does end up dying later in the game. Sad, I know. Other than that, there's nothing much else to Cid in the game other than helping you and your party reach different areas in the game, quests. That's typically his purpose. Final Fantasy 3, Cid Hayes. This Cid in Final Fantasy 3 is an old airship captain. He can be a part of your party, and he carries a hammer. He also uses magic, but it's mostly fire. But you cannot control him. So when he's a part of your party, he's an NPC. He does help, he has a weapon, so I guess it's not too bad. He also had a very sick wife in the game. Her name is Mrs. Cid. That's unique. That's nice. The devs didn't really care much about Cid's wife, so they're just like, yeah, okay, her name's just Mrs. Cid, whatever. Cid does have his own quest in the game. He does have to find an exceller to help cure his wife of the illness. I think this Cid is interesting that he can be part of your party. He has his own journey also, but he's not playable. That's weird, but you know, hey, it is what it is, I guess. Final Fantasy 4, Cid Polendina. This Cid becomes the first Cid that's actually playable. Cid is a friend and a mentor for the main character, Cecil. He's also the main lead airship engineer for the Kingdom of Baron. Throughout the game, Cid starts noticing evil and corruption going on in the Kingdom of Baron and starts coming up with theories and suspicions and I guess conspiracies. In the game, he is proven right, but he's thrown in jail for being right, because that's what happens when you expose the government. So he was arrested for treason. And of course, you and your party do end up breaking him out of prison, and he actually joins your party right afterwards. Cid in this game is also a complete badass. One part in the game where he actually jumps off the aircraft with a bomb and the bomb explodes, but later he's alive. He survives the bombing. I don't know, that's just Cid. The Cid in this game is invincible. Final Fantasy V, Cid Previa. Cid in Final Fantasy V works with his grandson as engineers who created a machine that amplifies the power of crystals. There's wind crystals, fire crystals, earth crystals, water crystals. Unfortunately, the amplification of these crystals are causing it to shatter, which is messing with the world. After finding out the magnitude of damage his machines are causing, he tries to stop it by telling the monarchy, who is in charge of amplifying the strength of these crystals. The monarch wasn't having it, and Cid joins your party to stop the monarchy from amplifying these crystals and basically just finding redemption and creating the machines that are causing this destruction. You know, your typical redemption story. So that's really it for Cid in this game. Final Fantasy VI, Cid del Norte Marquez. So this Cid is my favorite one because of his name. Me and Ruben are always cracking up. This dude, we're like, he's Latino, he's Hispanic. Marquez del Norte, the North. My man is Latinx, okay? And also, can we talk about his little banana suit that he's wearing? This dude straight up looks like a banana. This Cid is a non-playable character in this game. He's also the inventor of magic. Magic is a technology that powers up machines and weaponry and can also be used to infuse humans with godlike powers. He actually created an experiment with magic. One of the main characters, Celes, C-E-L-E-S, Celes, she's actually an experiment of this Cid, and he is actually remorseful for it. He adopts her and is her foster dad. He raises her as a way to redeem himself. Depending on your actions throughout the game, Cid can either live or die. So it's one of those, and I believe it's canon that Cid dies in this game, because if you want to save Cid, you have to do so much just in order to save Cid. But that's really it for the Cid. Final Fantasy VII, Cid Highwind. This Cid is the most well-known Cid. I mean, come on. This is the Final Fantasy VII Cid. The loudmouth, smoking, angry Cid. And he's also featured in the Kingdom Hearts games, along with several other Final Fantasy characters. He's a pilot and a mechanic that creates vehicles for you and your party members to progress later in the game. He's also a total badass that gets really mad about his tea time. I mean, who can't forget about this? Final Fantasy VII Remake is coming out tomorrow, and there's a lot of people who are playing Final Fantasy VII, the OG, for the first time. So I just figured maybe it won't be appropriate of me to dive more into it, especially if you guys are new to Final Fantasy VII. So I'm gonna just leave it as that. He's a wonderful character. He's a fan favorite for sure. And you guys will see why if you do end up picking up Final Fantasy VII, or if you guys are in the middle of playing Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VIII, Cid Kramer. He reminds me of a bulkier and hunkier version of Milo from Atlantis. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I mean, I can see it. People also say he looks a little bit like Robin Williams. So in this game, he's a headmaster who also trains Squall and his companions from Seed, a mercenary group, to defeat sorceress Ida? I think it's Ida. Correct me if I'm wrong. Spoiler alert, I'm gonna spoil it. So the sorceress Ida is actually being controlled by Ultimisia? I don't know. Another plot twist slash spoiler alert, sorceress Ida is actually Ida Kramer, who is Cid Kramer's wife. Talk about plot twist, talk about tough, that's rough, and then you gotta defeat your wife and the evil sorceress that's controlling your wife. Cid is definitely like heavily involved in the plot. It can get pretty complex, just like most Final Fantasy games. That's mostly Cid's ordeal. He has to help you and your party defeat Ultimisia so he can get his wife. Final Fantasy IX, Cid Fabul the Ninth. This Cid is actually a really interesting one. He is the ruler of Lidblum. He does become a playable character in the game, but only for an extremely short, brief segment. And that's it, he just becomes an NPC. That's really weird. I don't know why they implemented that if he's not gonna be a playable character. The reason why he looks weird and ugly in the game is because he is a cheating whore. That's right. Cid in this game cannot keep it in his pants. So his wife decided to curse him and transform him into a oogloop. Something like that. That thing is ugly, but that's what he gets for being a cheating whore. He does have an amazing mustache, so that's probably why he got all the ladies, but wow, this Cid sucks. Final Fantasy X, Cid. Cid in this game is just Cid, no last name. He's Yuna's uncle and the Al Bed's leader. Cid and the other members of the tribe were able to find an ancient aircraft that helps you and the party travel throughout Final Fantasy X. Fun fact, he actually has the word love tattooed on his bald-headed forehead, but it's written in Al Bed's language, which is pretty cool. He's short-tempered and loud, and he also appears in the spin-off 10-2, but he doesn't really play a major role. The only thing that really happens to him is he stops tourist attraction in the area he lives in. He's trying to get accustomed to the new world. Spoiler alert. My bad. Final Fantasy XI. Cid. Same as Final Fantasy X, this Cid doesn't really have a title or a last name. He's a non-playable character and he resides in a nation called Bastok. He's one of the main important people in the nation that actually helps make Bastok a very, very successful nation. So what Cid mainly does in the game is just provide you quests and missions to do throughout Bastok. He also creates airships to aid the main character, you, and your party to travel to different areas throughout Bastok and any other areas that you need to go to. But that's really it for Cid in this game. It doesn't really affect the plot. Final Fantasy XII. Sisyphus Demon Bonanza. You know what's really cool about this Cid, besides his powerful dramatic name? He's actually an antagonist in this game. Finally, an evil Cid, and he's also a boss. He fulfills the role as an evil scientist for the powerful Arcadian Empire. Just like previous titles, he does create weapons, vehicles, airships, but it's not to help you and your party out. It's just for his own personal gain. Cid's ultimate goal is very, very personal. He believes in freedom of choice for all mankind, and that's why he is the way he is in the game, and that's very, very interesting. It definitely breaks away from the tradition of the Cids from the previous titles. It just makes him a very different antagonist as well, but we can't really side with him because he's also against like morality and shit, so he's just cuckoo and weird and evil, and I like that. I appreciate that. I like my villains, so go ahead. Sisyphus Demon, whatever your name is. Final Fantasy XIII. Cid reigns. So Cid in this game is a general in the Sanctum Guardian Court and also commands an airship called Lindblum, which connects back to the other Cid from Final Fantasy IX. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if Square Enix wanted it to be like a little Easter egg or something like that, but that was cool. So he's definitely one of the youngest Cids of all the Cids. Like, he looks like he's in his 20s or 30s. And also, he's one of the favorite Cids besides Final Fantasy VII Cid. Spoiler alert, I'm gonna spoil some stuff. Because he's very, I wouldn't say undecisive, but like I said, he's very complex in the way he makes decisions in the game. It does lead him to his death. So Cid becomes a mindless monster after defying him being mind controlled, which unfortunately you do have to defeat him, and like I said, that ends up killing him. It's sad, you know, it's just sad when a cool character dies, but he served a purpose, inspired you and your group to help finish your quest, finish your journey. So that was Cid's purpose in this game. Final Fantasy XIV. Cid Nan Garland. This Cid looks like a silver fox, okay? Like, he is fine. Anyways, Cid does play a large role in which he provides the players numerous quests and missions to complete throughout the game. Also, in the story, he wakes up with memory loss, so he seeks shelter in a church and goes by a different name, Marquez, which again ties into Final Fantasy VI's Cid, Del Norte Marquez. After a while, Cid, or Marquez, does regain his memory back and then goes back to just being Cid. Final Fantasy 15. Cid Sophia. So here we are to our last game. In this game, he's a grandpa again, and he runs a business with his granddaughter, Cindy Aruam? It's a service station called Hammerhead. So basically in the game, they just fix Noxus's car whenever it's damaged or needs repairs. And he also upgrades your weapons throughout the game. But that's just mostly their purpose in the game. Honestly, he's a cool looking grandpa. I mean, he's 77 years old and he got it. You know, he's out there living his life, working at a gas station. I like him. He's pretty cool. He is a non-playable character, unfortunately. I mean, that'd be really cool. But at the same time, he's 77 years old. Dude is retired, working at a station. Leave him alone. He doesn't want to fight anymore. He just wants to live his life fixing cars, and that's totally fine. So that's it. that's all of the Cids. I think it's really cool that Square Enix decided to have a reoccurring character in every game. He's like the Yoshis in the Mario games. Like, he's always there. You know he's always there. You're like, oh yeah, that's Cid. You know, what's a Final Fantasy game without Cid? For all of you that don't know, every Final Fantasy game is episodic. They're all different. 1, 2, 3, all the way to 15. Complete different cast, complete different story, complete different eras. I think it's really cool that Square Enix decided to keep one thing continuous, which is Cid. And honestly, it makes me appreciate him more. I'm super excited for Final Fantasy VII to come out. I pre-ordered the Sephiroth Steelbook edition a while ago, so I'm super excited. I also have the little lanyard and the Shinra electric power card. Isn't that cool? I'm super excited. This also gave me more appreciation to the series with this whole Cid thing. And I hope you guys enjoyed it too. So don't forget to give us a like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that bell to receive notifications when we upload, okay? Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!